everyone, welcome back to Cooking 101. I'm Jen. I am a dietitian. I started this show because of the pandemic and the fact that everybody was stuck at home and they may have been cooking for the first time or not used to cooking all the time and are running out of ideas for meals. And part of my job as a dietitian is to help people out so that they have some new ideas, ways to augment what they're cooking to make it more interesting, tasty, and healthier. I'm not a professional chef, but I do a lot of this as my job, so I figured I would make it a video and help everybody out. I'm just so distracted by the fact that my hair is peeking out. There we go. All right, distraction over. Today we're going to talk lentils again. Lentils was like my second video ever. And at the time, I went and cooked black and green lentils to show you how those lentils worked. And I briefly mentioned red lentils, but I didn't show you how they cook up, and I didn't show you what you could do with them. So today I'm going to do one of my favorite dishes, which is a Turkish dish that is like red lentil meatballs, basically, in lettuce wraps. It's awesome. The first time I had this dish, I was eating at a Turkish restaurant in Astoria. I thought it was the best thing ever. It seemed so healthy, so good for you, so tasty, really simple. And I was like, wow, I can just do takeout and get healthy food forever. And then when I got a little bit older, I was like, wow, I could just be making this healthy food instead of wasting my money. So that's where I'm at now. But I love this dish. It's super easy. It goes pretty quick. I had to pre-cook some stuff just because I didn't want you guys sitting here for like half an hour while I cooked up some lentils. But otherwise, very quick, very easy. Mostly just you cook the two things that are dry. You mix them together with a bunch of other stuff. You put them in lettuce and you're done. So pretty minimal work here. So to start out, get yourself some red lentils. Here are my red lentils. These are Arrowhead Mills. You don't have to get Arrowhead Mills. Get whatever red lentils you want to get. Then you get yourself a grain. So this recipe traditionally uses bulgur wheat. I happened to have freekeh left over from when I did whole grains as a cooking demo. Freekeh is another type of wheat. It's green and usually kind of baked out in the sun in the Middle East, and that's how you get freekeh. It's like a weird cousin of bulgur. Similar things. Bulgur is kind of a weird cousin of couscous. All these grains can be kind of switched out for one another if you want it. Freekeh, being wheat, is not gluten-free. Bulgur is wheat as well, so that's not gluten-free. And couscous is made of flour, so that's not gluten-free. But you can pretty much use any grain you want to. I haven't tried this with quinoa. It might be a little chewier, but it's still going to work. The whole grains that you put in there are kind of a binder, so if you mess around with it and find that it's not really adhering very well, that just might be because you don't have a lot of starch in there or a lot of gluten. But it's still going to work out. The grain plays kind of a double role where it kind of helps adhere and give some bulk to these lentil patties. It also gives it something to kind of make you full. Lentils are great on their own. They're full of fiber and they're full of protein. They're like a perfect food in that way. But adding a whole grain to that, it's really going to fill you up. It's going to be very hearty. So pick your whole grain of choice, gluten-free or not gluten-free, and then we can get started. So when I went over lentils in my second video ever, I talked about how black and green lentils, especially French lentils, will cook up and be kind of chewy. You usually don't want to cook them for more than half an hour, usually up to like 20 minutes. You can waterlog them, which makes them not very tasty. So that's separate from how you prepare red lentils. Red lentils have a property that makes them basically melt when you cook them. So you can see here, I didn't mash these, I didn't do anything. I just boiled them and then I stirred them a little to make sure they weren't sticking to the bottom of the pot, because they do that at the end of the cooking process. So for red lentils, look at the package, measure out the water as instructed. Don't play around with that, because it's basically made to cook perfectly into this mash without adhering itself to the bottom of your pan. Red lentils are a little sticky. They've got a little bit more starch than the other lentils do, but they're still high in protein, still good for you. They just happen to make this nice little mash here, which makes them perfect for making patties because they're already mushed up. They're not like separate and you don't have to process them really. So once you cook your lentils, you cook your greens as well. So I cook these guys side by side. It's usually a 1-to-1 ratio, so 1 cup of lentils, 1 cup of greens. I cooked a little less in the greens department, about like 1/2 to 3/4. I was eyeballing it. Don't do that. Eyeballing is very risky if you don't know what you're doing. But I did less grains because A, I don't want a metric ton of grains in here. I don't want it to overshadow the lentils. B, this is freekeh. It's not bulgar, so I was afraid it was going to cook up a little bit more than bulgar might. It looks like a pretty even ratio now that it's done, even though I did a cup of these and not a cup of these. But I played around a little bit with it. But like, if you're just getting started, do 1-to-1, 1 cup and 1 cup. It's not going to hurt you if there's too much grain in there. So you just add one to the other. This came out pretty easy. Again, follow the cooking directions on your packet. That is super duper important. So you just mix everything together. The lentils are like smooth as butter right now. They're so mashed up. So they will incorporate pretty easily. So I'm not going to like thoroughly mix these because there's more mixing coming and I don't want to sit here mixing and mixing and mixing. So to this mixture, you're going to add olive oil. Not too much. 1 tablespoon. Look guys, I'm measuring. This is never done. Cooking tip for new people. If you are measuring a liquid or even a solid thing, you have to add it to a big batch. Pour it over the thing. Don't like pour it and then bring it over. Because if there's any spillage, that's okay. And it'll go directly into what you're cooking. So nothing is wasted. So that was one of like the first cooking tips I ever learned. Okay. So we've added our olive oil. Next, a flavoring agent, tomato paste. So tomato paste comes in cans usually. I started finding it in a squeeze bottle and I was in love because it's so much easier to save for later. Because you never find a recipe that's like, add an entire can of tomato paste. It's usually like, add a couple tablespoons and then you're left with it. This you can reseal and stick in your fridge and it's awesome. So tomato paste can be kind of high in salt. This came from a box. Box probably has the amount on, but I happen to like this brand. Take a look at the ingredients. Make sure it doesn't say 700 milligrams of salt. For anything you're cooking with, you want to get under 450 milligrams. Otherwise, it is Salt Fest USA. So we're adding 2 tablespoons of tomato paste, which is going to be funky because this is coming out in weird ribbons. So I'll just count that as 1. And actually, it was very fortuitous that I used the olive oil first because nothing's sticking to this tablespoon right now. Look at that, clean. All right, so that's my tomato paste. And then like any good toothpaste, you can just squeeze up from the bottom, so that's good to go for next time. Stick it in your fridge, and you're done. Next flavoring agent I'm adding is a pureed red pepper paste. This is what mine looks like. This is really hard to find. In fact, I only found this brand and nothing else. If you can't find it, you have 2 choices. One is you don't put it in. It's not going to kill it. You might want to add another tablespoon or 2 of tomato paste just for flavor boost. 2, which the recipe actually recommended, is you can roast the pepper. Now, I've showed you how to roast a pepper. You just have to go to my sauces section. That was like my 3rd video. We're really drawing on all this stuff I taught before. But in that low sodium sauce thing, I showed you how to roast a pepper over a gas flame. It's pretty easy. You just set it on fire, let it burn a little bit, and then put it in a thing. Put it in like a little bowl, cover it in plastic for like 10 minutes, and then you can just rub the skin off. If it's charred, it'll come right off. So you can do that, and then you put it in a food processor or use a little stick blender, and you pulverize that. That's your red pepper paste. This is Turkish red pepper paste. I live in New York City. It's amazingly easy to find some rare stuff around here because we have such a melting pot of cultures, so I am lucky in that way. I don't know what I'm going to do with the rest of this giant jar, though, when I'm done. That's a lot of red pepper paste. Maybe I'll just make lentils forever. Who knows? It's a healthy dish, so I could foreseeably do that. But there's the red pepper paste. All right. Next order of business, I'm going to add a little salt. Now, this recipe called for 3 teaspoons of salt. Also, on my low sodium sauces video, I mentioned that the serving size for a low sodium diet is 1 teaspoon of salt a day. So if you are on a low sodium diet, 3 teaspoons of salt is not in your future. I would never add that much. We're adding other stuff. We're adding acids with the tomato paste. We're going to add some lemon. That's another acid. That's going to bring out the flavor. I'm going to really concentrate on adding those flavorings and a little minimal salt. So a couple of grinds on my salt grinder is going to do it. This is well below 1 teaspoon. So not even the 3 teaspoons it calls for. If you are a salt lover and you're not having any health issues, you can add more. I'm not going to stop you. I don't even know you're doing it. I would say if you're really used to dumping a metric ton of salt in your food, you might want to scale back a little bit. It's good for you, and you're helping to nip future health problems in the bud. You don't want to be like, I'm fine, until you're not. You want to take care of yourself all along the way and reduce risk for issues coming up. We're all stressing a lot, so our blood pressure is probably all up and down. So the less salt, the better. That's what I recommend anyway. All right, we got some diced up scallion. That's going in as well. And some finely chopped parsley. Now, this is a lot of parsley. This is more than the recipe called for. I like parsley. I like something green in there. It's actually healthy for you, just like a vegetable is. It's got a lot of nutrients. So don't shy on the parsley if you happen to like it, which I do. This is an Italian flat leaf parsley, by the way. It is not the curly leaf. I basically never cook with the curly leaf. If someone can leave a message in the comments and tell me what the heck curly leaf is for, I mean, I'm sure it was also chopped up and put in dishes. It just seems wrong. Like, flat leaf always seems the way to go for me. I don't know why. I'm biased. All right, so we added our herbs and onion. Now we're going to add some lemon juice. I have 2 lovely lemons here. I'm going to put them both in because acid brings out flavor. Lemon juice is an acid. I have 2, so why not utilize all of it? All right, my little lemon squeezer. Put a little muscle in it. This is not the ripest lemon, so I'm getting my exercise for the day here. Rah. Okay, I'm going to flip it over. Here's a little trick I learned. If you flip it so that it's upside down in there, you can actually squeeze more out. Get every drop. All right. So lemon's going in. So there's another trick. If you have a particularly stone hard lemon or lime, you can actually microwave it for like 10 seconds and it'll soften it up. I'm not going to do that, but I'm passing that tip on to you. I try not to, but sometimes you just got to soften things, so it helps. There we go. All right. I'm glad we're doing 2 because I feel like this lemon was super stubborn. I'm going to save that and put it in some water. You can do that. After you squeeze out the juice, you can actually just put this in a glass of water. It'll still continue to infuse some of the flavor. It tastes nice. It's very refreshing. All right. Almost there. 3 down, 1 to go. Well, almost 3 down. I got to flip this again. So I'm in a really fortuitous position because I pre-cooked all this stuff and I let it cool. If you're doing this right when it's hot, that's okay. You might not want to handle it. It might be difficult to stir. It might be a little too hot. The steam might be escaping. So just give yourself a little bit of time. I think overall the lentils are the longest thing that cooks. That took me about half an hour. The wheat that I used, the freekeh, that cooked up in 20 minutes, so pretty fast. And then this part, I mean, we're 15 minutes into the show and I talk a lot, as you know. So this part goes really fast. So we're looking at probably all told maybe a 45-minute cooking time. And that's just because you have to cook the lentils. But the nice thing about cooking the lentils is you can put the pot on, set your timer once you bring it to a boil. And then you can go do something else. Or you can, like I did, prep everything else that you were prepping. All right, lemon juice is added. And that was our last ingredient. So now we just stir. Lots of stirring. Combine all of the flavors that we just added in. Now you don't want to go bananas with the lemon juice or any of the liquids we added, which was just this and the olive oil. And that's because you don't want to make this completely watery. It has to have some cohesion because we're going to make little dumplings out of it, basically. So stirring that all up. It's combining very nicely. Very easy. This is a very easy recipe. That's also why I dig it and I'm passing it on to you. It's not a lot of people have heard of this. It's very tasty, but it's simple. Like, everybody can stir. Everybody can add things. Everybody can boil a pot of water. Well, most people can boil a pot of water. I won't say everybody because it's not always everybody. But they're things you can learn easily. It's a nice little recipe for that. And you feel accomplished because you're kind of stretching the boundaries a little bit of what you're used to cooking. There we go. Alright, so there's our lentils all mashed up, stirred up, ready to go. Now, these are lettuce wraps. They are traditionally served in lettuce. You can kind of grab whatever lettuce is lying around the house, as long as you can get a big full leaf. Like a washed salad mix is not going to cut it for this because you can't fit it in a tiny little piece of lettuce. I happen to like wrapping things in cabbage. I'm a weirdo. I like raw cabbage leaves. It works for me. And I'm getting a lot of it through my CSA. So today I had these Carafax cabbages. They're cone cabbage. This is like a mature one. It's what it looks like. So I pulled all the leaves off, and they make these convenient cup-shaped sizes that are bite-sized. It's perfect for this. So cabbage is not everybody's favorite thing to eat, especially raw. And I will tell you now, it is very fibrous. It may bloat your stomach up. But it's very low calorie for that reason, and it can really work in a healthy diet, so I'm going to use these. But lettuces I typically like for this recipe: butterleaf lettuce, romaine works very well, Boston leaf lettuce, all those. As long as you can get like a leaf that's at least the size of your hand or your palm that you can fit a nice little meatball into. I use meatball loosely because this is a vegan recipe. Alright, so I'm just going to spoon some in. And you can shape it with your hand. You can probably fit a little bit more. When this cools down further, it's going to be even more easy to hold its shape. This is a little malleable, it's still warm, but that's what it looks like. So we can make a nice little plate of these. And honestly, like 3 and I am stuffed. That's all you need to eat. So it's, again, very filling. This is going to last me several days, which is really useful. So it's a good recipe for all of the above. It's cheap to make. It's vegan. It's got a good amount of vegetables. It's got high protein content because you're using lentils and a huge whole grain. And the rest is just good for you stuff. So you can make it low sodium. You can make it high sodium. I don't recommend high sodium, but you live your life. But that's it. That's the recipe. Nice and easy, nice and quick. So if you guys have any questions, leave them in the comments. If you like the show, let me know. If you want to contribute, I take donations through Venmo. My Venmo is at JSRockRD. I use that money to help me buy the groceries for each show because a lot of shows need specialty groceries and I go out and find them. If you can't donate, that's fine. This show is for you. And if you are interested in working with me at all one-on-one, I am a dietitian and I love taking on new patients. Everything is currently going through telehealth, so you don't have to leave the comfort of your home. I'll just video you in and we can talk about how to improve your health. Otherwise, if you have any suggestions for the next show, please let me know. This came from a person who requested lentils, and after I was like, oh, we did lentils, I was like, well, we didn't do this lentil. So the ideas all help, even ideas that I may have done already. So don't hold back. Let me know what you want to see. In 2 weeks, we're going on a hiatus because I am going out of town because I have not left this apartment in 6 months. So I'll probably post a repeat episode. But next week we'll be back, and I will see you guys then. And until then, stay cool and enjoy your week.